and welcome back for another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to be making, as per requested by my little boy, a wallet. How cute is that? So I'm going to open it up and show you what it's all about. I used a nice little snap here, so we're going to open it, nice and easy to open, and then it looks like this. So we have 2 card slots and then we have a slip pocket behind. This really can fit a good amount of cards if you wanted to, but usually, you know, gift cards are the only thing that's going to be in these types of wallets. I designed this specifically for children in mind, but you know, anyone can use this wallet, of course. We have another slip pocket over here, and then we have a zipper pocket here. So we have all this space in here for coins, little toys, who knows what kids love to put in their wallets. We have a large pocket here for your bills. It is so cute, and these are so easy to make. I will have this pattern available over at my Etsy shop. Those links will be in the description. I appreciate you if you do go over and show me some love and buy this pattern. I am switching over to charging for my patterns these days, as things are getting quite expensive to be able to maintain the YouTube channel and everything else. But yeah, I really appreciate if you do go over and show the love and buy my PDF patterns. So here is another one that I made. This is the one I made in the tutorial. I love the contrast and the yellow. Like, isn't that just... I also had some fun and made it out of this wonderful print. I even made it with a magnetic closure, which is another option that you could do. And then I have this other really fun print, and you can really get creative with your prints and fussy cut, make it so that, you know, different parts of your fabric are showcased at different parts of the wallet. I love these little wallets. I'm going to be giving them to all the kids in my life, so I hope that you give this a try. If you do, I would love to see it, so come over to Instagram and TikTok. I go live over on TikTok, and then I do all my stories and everything else over on Instagram. So if you want to message me, you have any questions about anything ever, any questions, come over to Instagram. That's the best way to contact me. So without further ado, let's get straight into that tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to go through my list of pieces. Today I will be making a Stormtrooper wallet. So I have 2 of my outer pieces. This is going to be for the bill wallet portion. I have 1 piece that's going to be a little bias binding piece. I have 1 piece that's going to be the tab piece. I have 2 of the outer fabrics that's going to be part of my zipper pocket. And then I have the linings for that zipper pocket right here. I'm using a contrasting charcoal gray fabric, just a cotton fabric. I'm using these 2 pieces, which is going to be the inside bill lining, and then I'm going to also be using that contrasting fabric to make our card slots, so I have a nice long piece. So the first thing you're going to do is iron on some interfacing. So I went ahead and did that, and it's really important in this project that we keep our interfacing out of the seams. And so basically what that means is that we're going to iron it on, but we're going to cut it to be a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch smaller than our pieces, and that's just going to keep it from going into our seams and creating too much bulk. This is one of those projects where you need to find the sweet spot for your interfacing, or it's going to be really, really thick and hard to construct. It's not too hard because I've kind of perfected it, so the way that I do it, I of course recommend. So I'm using a medium weight interfacing, and I'm only going to put it on my outer fabric. So as you can see, my outer fabric consists of the lining of this one, the outer, this bias binding piece, and then the outer of my zipper pocket. But I also did put some interfacing into this little tab here and also in the card slots. I'm also adding a piece of Peltex to my wallet just to give it some more strength. It doesn't need it, but it definitely makes for a nicer product, I think. I made one without, and you know, once you get the money in, it's perfectly fine. But I think it looks a lot nicer when the Peltex is in there. So if you can get your hands on this or something that is similar, that'll be great for just the outer portion. So I also have a zipper because we do have a little zipper pocket inside of our wallet. So I'm just using a little, just run-of-the-mill zipper for that. Okay, so we're going to start doing our card slots, ironing that. We're going to iron our little piece of bias binding. I went ahead and did that, and it's really important in this project that we keep our interfacing out of the seams. And so basically what that means is that we're going to iron it on, but we're going to cut it to be a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch smaller than our pieces. And that's just going to keep it from going into our seams and creating too much bulk. This is one of those projects where you need to find the sweet spot for your interfacing, or it's going to be really, really thick and hard to construct. It's not too hard because I've kind of perfected it, so the way that I do it, I of course recommend. So I'm using a medium weight interfacing, and I'm only going to put it on my outer fabric. So as you can see, my outer fabric consists of the lining of this one, the outer, this bias binding piece, and then the outer of my zipper pocket. But I also did put some interfacing into this little tab here and also in the card slots. I'm also adding a piece of Peltex to my wallet just to give it some more strength. It doesn't need it, but it definitely makes for a nicer product, I think. I made one without, and you know, once you get the money in, it's perfectly fine. But I think it looks a lot nicer when the Peltex is in there. So if you can get your hands on this or something that is similar, that'll be great for just the outer portion. So I also have a zipper because we do have a little zipper pocket inside of our wallet. So I'm just using a little, just run-of-the-mill zipper for that. So now we're gonna go iron our pieces so that we can start sewing. Okay, so when I start making card slots, I like to have a little dummy card on hand, and that just helps me to make the card slots perfect because I want to base it off of an actual card that's going to be in the wallet. So I'm just using this old gift certificate. So the first thing we're going to do, we have our iron heating up right here. I'm going to measure 4 inches and I'm going to fold that. So I'm just going to put it like this just so that I can. And I'm going to fold that. This piece is going to be 4 inches when it is finished. So I'm just going to do that. Give it a press. And then we'll flip it over. Okay. So essentially we made the lining, the slip pocket that's going to be behind our card slots. So now I'm going to take my little dummy card and I'm going to place it onto my fabric. And I like to keep it about 1 millimeter away from the edge just so that you can see the fabric. And then I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to fold it up. And I'm going to give it another good press. Okay, so from here, I'm going to put that card back in there, and you don't want to iron if it's a plastic card because you'll, of course, melt the gift card. But then I'm going to fold it back, and I'm going to have measurements in the actual pattern, but this is honestly the way that I prefer to do it just because it looks the nicest and is the most even, and just in case, you know, your card is a little bit bigger than mine or smaller. So I just left about a 1/2 inch exposed, and we're going to give it another press, and that is going to be 1 card slot fully formed. So as you can see, I can put it in there and it stops right there perfectly. You can see it enough, and then you can also see the edge of the next slip pocket as well, which is important because you want to know that there is another pocket behind here. So from here, we're going to take our card slot and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find that 1 millimeter and we're going to flip the fabric up, taking our card out, press, and then we can put the card back and we'll just do that again, giving ourselves the same amount. The more even it looks, the better it'll look at the end. And if you're worried about things not being even, if you have a quilt ruler, you can line it up with your lines of your quilt ruler and you can really see if your edges are nice and straight. So I do have some extra here, and that's okay. We're gonna cut that off. But we wanna have more fabric than not enough. So just in case, I give you a little extra, and then we're just gonna take that to the cutting mat and then cut it right there. So that is perfect, and we can start sewing that very shortly. Okay, so now we're going to iron our little piece of bias tape, which is super simple. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold your fabric in half lengthways, and that is going to give you a nice memory crease. We're going to use that as sort of a guide, but we'll also use it to fold the fabric. So we give that a really good press, and then we're going to open it back up, and then using that crease, we're just going to fold in the edges towards that memory crease and press going down all the way. I like to kind of tuck it in like that, and then I'll give it another press. And then I like to take my tailor's clapper, which is just a block of wood, and I'll place that on top and sort of let that cool, and then I'll have a really sharp crease. And sometimes it comes undone. That's okay. We're going to go to the other side and we're going to do the same thing. And when we're doing the other side, I'm just going to fold it up completely on itself. So we're just folding in that last edge, and we want to make it nice and even and straight. And if you have a little bias tape maker, that definitely can help this part. I, believe it or not, don't have one. I don't use it very often. Alright, so we're just going to leave that clapper on there, and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to start assembling our zipper pocket. So we have our little zipper here, we have our outer and our lining pieces. The one side is going to be a little bit longer than the other side, so we'll keep those together. We're going to have our zipper pull up, and we're going to work on the right side of our zipper. We want to make sure that the longer portion of fabric is on this side, because that is going to fold and then get sent inside, and that's going to be the lining of our slip pocket that's behind the zipper. So we're going to take these two pieces and we're going to put that onto our zipper. Now, because I have an oversized zipper, this will make things a little easier because the zipper pull is out of the way. If you have a zipper by the yard and you want to cut the perfect measurement, then that's fine. You can do that as well. I have a bunch of these little zippers hanging around, so I'm just kind of using them up. But Zipper by the Yard is wonderful. Such far less waste. Okay, so I put the outer on top with the zipper pull up, and then I'm going to go to the other side and put the lining, and I'll just go ahead and reclip that. So then you're going to sew along here. We're going to use the zipper foot nice and close to the zipper teeth, and then we will open it up and then do a nice top stitch. I'm going to continue this little zipper portion over at the sewing machine because I really don't think there's anything else I need to do really at the cutting table. So let's go. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my zipper foot. This is what mine looks like. Whoop. So I'm just going to take out my regular one, slip that little guy in there, and then we are going to make sure that your needle is on this side because there's two spots where you can install your zipper foot. And I'm going to have it so that the edge with the little notch in it is right up against my zipper teeth. And we're going to go ahead and sew. Okay. And that is how it should be looking. Okay, so we're flipping our fabrics to the right sides out like this. And now we are going to do a top stitch about a millimeter away from the edge of the fabric. And that is how that should be looking. Now we're going to take our other two pieces and make sure that if they are directional that you are seeing that when you are putting that on, and you are going to put the outer on top. See, your zipper pull is up. We're going to flip it over, and then we're going to take our lining and we're going to sandwich that zipper right in between, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to sew along that edge, we're going to flip it, and then we're going to do a nice top stitch. Like that. And then we're going to flip it. Flip the lining over as well. And then we're going to do that top stitch right along that edge. And that looks perfect. Okay, so now all we're going to do is we're going to take this bigger piece and we're going to kind of slip that behind, just like that. And it's not going to probably be perfectly even, and that's absolutely fine because we'll square that up at the end. And from here, if you want to go ahead and do a little top stitch along that edge too to make that look nice and polished, you can do that as well. I'm also going to take my zipper pull and I'm going to pull it down, and then I'm going to tack up here and tack down here, and then I can go ahead and cut off my excess zipper afterwards. I went ahead and switched back to my regular foot because I'm all done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that top stitch. Try to make that nice and even so it just kind of looks like a piece of bias tape there. And then while I'm here, I'm just going to shoot across my zipper. Okay, and then I'm going to go over here and kind of hold my zipper together, and then again do a little tack stitch. And that's just going to make sure that if for some reason I forget, I won't accidentally take my zipper off, and those little stitches will just stop it and then remind me, oh yeah, I cut my zipper stops off. So just make sure you're not using your favorite scissors when you're doing this, because it definitely is not good for your blades. So I'm just going to go like that. And that is the full little zipper pocket. And that is the slip pocket portion right there. And now we can sew our card slots. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to sew the edges of the 3 little slot openings. We're just going to do a top stitch. It just makes it look nicer. It makes you be able to see that there are slots. So I like to bump up my stitch length to a 3, just a little bit longer when I'm doing my my top stitching. So I'm just going to do it about 1 millimeter away from the edge. Now, if you're not very confident with your straight lines, you can totally do that with a matching thread, or you could just omit it altogether. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. I've been doing card slots for a really long time, and I feel like I'm pretty good. I'm getting good. So I just went ahead and tucked that other card slot like out of the way, and then just kind of isolate the edge. Okay, before we go and square up those pieces, I am going to first go ahead and sew my little tab closure. So I'm just going to fold it in half, and I'm going to sew up and over. Now, if you have the directional fabric and you want the top of your tab to be maybe the top of your picture, then just keep that in mind. But this tab will be sideways, so actually no, I'm gonna do it this way. It's a perfect square. What am I thinking? Yeah, that's fine. All these things you need to think about when you're making your projects, because if not, you'll just be sewing away and then realize, oh no, my fabric is directional. I didn't even think about that stuff. Anyways, so we're just going to do 1/4 inch seam allowance, up and down. We're going to lift our presser foot with our needle still in the fabric to get a really nice sharp corner. Okay. So now that we have that, we can go over to the cutting mat. We can start squaring off our card slots and our zipper pocket. Yeah. Okay, so we have these 2 pieces of fabric, and I have 2 of them that are the exact same here, but you have the creative freedom to be able to make this 2 different fabrics if you want to, because the one will be the lining on the inside of the bill wallet, and then the other one is going to be the lining that's behind our zipper pockets. So I'm putting 2. It's going to add a little bit of stability, but if you want to do 1, you can, especially if you have a fabric like this that has like an ugly back. You want to have, you know, the 2 layers. So we have our little zipper portion finished. We have our little card slot portion finished. And as you can see, we have some excess, but that is okay. We're just going to go ahead and come from behind, and then we're going to square it off. And I'm going to do 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Just lining that up. And I'm just going to cut the excess off. Okay. So now we're going to put that on top like that. Okay. So then we're going to make sure that this one is 4 inches. It's going to be a little harder to square off with that zipper under there. And we're going to cut that. There we go. Perfect. So then we can take this piece and we can place that here. So then you can imagine it is going to fold in half like that. And so if there is any cards in those slip pockets, there's no chance that those are going to slip out when the wallet is closed. Okay, so from here we're going to put on our bias binding at the top. But I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to flip this right sides out, and we're going to press that one super quick while we're here. Okay, so I'm just going to flip this. And I like to use my little knitting needle that I have here. Help to push that out. And then I use the pointy end to poke out my corners. And then I can give this a good press. And then I'm going to do a top stitch along those edges just to finish it off. Now we're just going to do that top stitching along our little tab piece. Like that. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that these two fabrics are even. We're going to take our card slots and we're going to put those here. And sometimes they can kind of shift around like that. I'm going to take our zipper portion and we're going to take our little bias binding here. We're going to open up the bias binding and we're going to take that first little fold here. That's where we're going to sew. So we're going to line up the raw edge of the binding with the top of our wallet, and we're going to sew, like I said, along that fold. So you just want to open that up so you don't get that in the way, and we're just going to sew right along there. Okay, so what I like to do is I'll just line up the edge of my foot with the edge of the fabric, and then I'm going to push my needle over to that fold, and then I should get a perfect seam. So that is how it is going to look. Okay, from here you can take some pinking shears or your scissors, and if you want to just kind of cut that down. Might be hard to get through the zipper with the pinking shears, but we just want to make that a little smaller. And we can fold it up and then over. And we're going to want to make it so that the edge of our bias binding is covering that seam there. Just like that. Okay, so now we are going to sew. I'm going to do it from the front. And I'm going to sew along this edge about 1 millimeter away, and then that should catch the back of the bias binding. I'm going to bump it up to a 3 stitch length. So here is how it looks from the back. And from here, we're going to do the final assembly. We have our Peltex, but we're not going to use that until the very end. So you're going to take one of your outer pieces. This is going to be the lining inside the bill wallet. So if you did any fussy cutting, just make sure that you don't pick the one that you want to be on the outside. Of course, mine is very similar, so it doesn't matter. We're going to take this like the inside, I'm going to put that on top like that, making sure everything is lined up. It's going to be really important that that is nice and even, because if not, you're going to really be able to notice it once the wallet is flipped right sides out. Okay, then we are going to take our tab piece and we're going to put that here on the card slot piece. And you're going to make sure that it is centered. So if you want to mark it, just to be sure, you can take your little ruler, and we're going to do 5.5 is 2 3/4, right? 2 3/4, 2 3/4. Yes, math. All right, so we're gonna do that. You can put a little clippy in there, and then we're gonna take our outer fabric, place that on top, making sure everything is square. We just want to make sure everything is beautiful and even so we can get the best result at the end. And what I like to do, and you can change this if you want to, is I'm going to leave the hole for turning at the top. When I'm done, I'm going to do a top stitch just at the top, and then that's going to close up my hole. I'm able to insert my Peltex from there as well. So I find that the easiest, but if you want to do it somewhere else, if you want to do a, hand sew it so that you'll have an invisible seam, you can do that too. But this is how it's going to look, and I'm going to leave like a pretty significant gap to be able to get my Peltex in. So probably a 4-inch hole at the top. I am going to be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That's important. I wrote that in the instructions. We're going to make sure that we catch every single little piece of fabric. So 1/2 inch is the way that I like to go so that I don't make any mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go all the way around, leaving a 4-inch gap. I'm going to put the edge of my presser foot against the raw edge, and then I'm going to move my needle over to the very end, and that is going to be my 1/2-inch seam allowed. Okay, backing up. Try to gauge to be a 1/2 inch. Turn. Make those corners nice and sharp. Go all the way down to the bottom. Now, if you have a hard time getting through these layers of fabric, using a 14-16 needle, a jean needle, should work just fine. But keeping that interfacing out of the seam allowances definitely helps your needle get through your fabrics. As you can see, mine did creep over a little bit. That's okay, it's not too bad. But you just want to keep that in mind. Turn. Making sure your zipper is here too, because you don't want to accidentally hit it. Turn again. Turn again. I went a little too far, so I'm just gonna pick up my needle and reposition and then continue. And then I'm going to stop. So I have about a 4-inch gap there. Okay, now from here we're going to take our scissors. You can take your pinking shears. You can go ahead and cut your corners, because we want to be able to reduce that bulk. Get as close as you can to the stitches without actually cutting the stitches. I'm not going to do too much here because I want to be able to turn that in nicely. But the rest of it, oops, can get pretty thick. Okay, so now is the moment of truth. We're going to turn it inside or right sides out. Just going to push it through. It should not be too difficult if you left a good amount of room. And I'm going to use my little corner poker tool. Sometimes I use this, sometimes I just use a knitting needle. Doesn't matter. It's looking really, really good. And then we'll take that tool, go inside, and very gently poke those corners. We don't want to do it too hard because you can bust those stitches. So I just kind of gently massage those corners out. Oops, see? It just kind of came out ever so slightly. So then I'm going to go and just give it a quick little press. Okay, so just going to press it down. And then we're going to take those raw edges and we're going to fold those in. And we're going to be a little bit meticulous with those just because you'll be able to notice if this isn't lined up nicely. From here you can figure out your little closure. I'm going to be doing snaps. You can do Velcro and magnetic snaps, but honestly all those things should have been done a long time ago. Hopefully you've read the pattern and you know that those things are going to have to be done to the pieces, and it kind of makes things a little complicated because if you don't know where the tab is going to fall, it's kind of harder to tell. But the snaps are a great option. I'll just do black all around. We have our little press. So if you've never seen these before, it's a sort of 4-button system. So you get 2 of these that are the same. They got a little pointy portion, and then you have the male and then the female. This is the male, that's the female, that kind of goes into itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tab and I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. Take my awl, an awl would come with this kit though. This is my stiletto also, which is just a pointy tool. And then you just make a hole, you put the little pin through the hole, and then we're going to put the male end on the outside. And then with this little guy, there's a black thing here. You're just going to put the back of the button, it's going to cradle in there, and then you're going to press down. Just like that. And then that installs. So now I'm going to install the other snap. So I'm going to take a piece of chalk and then I'm going to close up the wallet and I'm going to mark or kind of rub some chalk onto my button, and then I'm going to close it where it would go. If you want to make it a little bigger, you can go like that if you feel like you're going to need some room. But I'm just going to leave it like that. Then you kind of press down and then it's going to leave a little mark there. You're going to put that on the inside of the fabric, poking it through the hole. We want to do this before we put the Peltex in, just so that it's not super thick. We will slip this on the inside. Here we go. And then we can take our Peltex and we can put that on the inside. If it's a little too big, we're going to just cut it. And we'll put it inside. Try to lay it flat. Just like that. Okay, so now we can close up that hole and then we will be done. Gonna cut off our little ends there. Okay, now we can give it a little test run. Oh my goodness. How cute is that? We can put a little card in there. Fits perfectly. We can put some money on the inside. We can put whatever we want in there, a little receipt. We got a little coin pouch here. Nothing is going to fall out. It is so cute. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you give them a try, you make them in any other way, you change the pattern, you know, have full creative control, let me know what you do. I would love to see it over on Instagram. You can message me over there, send me your photos. I also do lives over on TikTok. So all my social media, of course, will be in the links below. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited. I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next tutorial. Bye guys.